Do you think new replacement windows and patio doors have to be expensive? Think again. I'm Andrew Kanopic from Renewal by Andersen. As the full-service replacement window division of Andersen, Renewal by Andersen often has larger discounts and better financing than other companies and contractors. Right now, save 20% on every window and save 20% on every patio door, with zero money down, zero payments, and zero interest for 1 year. You can also save money by replacing your windows in stages. With us, you can even save a lot by simply choosing a different window or patio door style. For affordable windows and patio doors that will last, call Renewal by Andersen to schedule your free appointment and save 20% on your project.
Call 1-800-406-8700. 1-800-406-8700. That's 1-800-406-8700. Offer not available in all areas. Restrictions and conditions apply. Call for license information.
Joining us now, he is Twins Chief Baseball Officer. It is Derek Falvey. Derek, always great to catch up. I appreciate your time.
Likewise, Doogie. Great to catch up with you today.
What are you thinking when you're flying back last night from beautiful California? Although all those wildfires are a bit frightening, but you fly back into a snowstorm. Yeah,
no question. We left California. It was a little bit warmer than it is here. I got to my car at the parking lot there at the terminal, and I had to warm up the seats. Let's put it that way. It was a little different here, but I like thinking about baseball because it keeps me warm for the spring.
Did you accomplish a good amount there in Carlsbad?
Felt like we did. Obviously there's always a view of what news comes out of there with respect to accomplishments, but I think what I've found the GM meetings to be really useful for in my career, and certainly have over the last couple of years here, is to really lay the groundwork for a lot of conversations. You meet with different agents, with players, you get a sense for whether or not they have interest in your situation and environment. You learn a lot about what they're looking for, just generally speaking, and then have some preliminary conversations. And then, you meet with every other club. You get a chance to really dig in deep to learn about team needs rather than just presuming them from a distance. So, to sit down and have conversations about where teams are and where our team is, it was helpful on a lot of fronts. And then lastly, to talk to Major League Baseball about ways we can continue to improve the product on the field. We talk about pace of game, and we talk about ways that we, as a baseball operation, can continue to impact the way we play the game and certainly reflect fan sentiment. So it was great couple of days, but excited to be back home. On your team, on the needs front, are we talking first baseman, second baseman, starting rotation, and the bullpen? Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you've certainly identified a couple of areas. We know we need two infielders. We've been thoughtful about where guys slot. Now, that could be some movement around our current infield. We're not ruling anything out at that point, but I think you hit probably the two areas when we talk about our current openings, and certainly when you think about pitching, whether it's rotation, bullpen, or otherwise. I think we're always looking to add to that group. I would guess there won't be a year where I have a conversation in the fall and into the winter where we aren't talking about pitching. So those are the areas I would expect us to take a look at early on. And is the beauty that you do have a good amount of financial flexibility? Well, it was something that we talked about even going back to last offseason. We knew that we had been set up fairly well for the future around our commitments and being flexible. So that affords us conversations in trades that might prove interesting if some guys with other teams are making some money and we think it's a good fit, and certainly in free agency. So our goal here is to try and put the best team on the field and figure out how we do that in the most efficient way and build it so it could be more sustainable over time. And you have to be thoughtful about where you're investing that money. So we'll make sure that we open up all avenues this offseason. Derek, when you say two infielders, but not necessarily a first baseman and a second baseman, I mean, specifically, does that mean that you're open-minded to the potential of, Jorge Polanco, for example, playing second base, not shortstop, and the potential of Miguel Sanó not playing third base, but playing first base? I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think we wouldn't rule anything out. The reality is when you go into an off season, the way we have it structured now, Jorge is our everyday shortstop, and Miguel, we have every expectation will be there at third. But if the right opportunity presents, we never want to rule out something that could potentially allow us to shift a guy. If we find the perfect third base fit for us over some period of time, does that open up a conversation with Miguel on the other side? I would say those are things we're always thinking about. And then on the bullpen, I mean, are you looking specifically for, that traditional closer, that ninth inning guy, or are you open-minded to, getting a guy that
that certainly can get some outs in the 7th inning, 8th inning, and if you want him to, also the 9th inning.
I think we're all seeing across baseball that the bullpen is being used, so differently than maybe it had in years past, and we certainly want guys to be able to get some of the most important last 9 outs of a game at least. And right now, as it stands, I think we have some internal candidates for that role. Certainly, we saw down the stretch some guys, guys like Trevor Hildenberger and Taylor Rogers and others that have pitched really well for us over the last couple of seasons. I think we have some young guys that still haven't quite gotten to prove themselves up here in the bullpen. But as we know, each and every year, if you look at different pens, I think of Oakland this past year. I think the year prior, a number of those guys weren't what they were able to do this past season. So I have every expectation that we have some good arms in house that will be here, but it would be likely, I would imagine, that we'll acquire from the outside as well.
Is your top priority, Derek, before maybe you sign a free agent or execute a trade, finalizing your coaching staff?
Well, you have to run concurrently at this point. I think I wish I could say you do one and then the other, but then we'd be behind. So we're working through coaching staff decisions, certainly interviews and otherwise right now as we speak, and we'll continue to do so with Rocco, and then at the same time have those conversations around players. So I have every expectation we're going to round out our staff here with a good group of people that will really impact whichever players we acquire. So we're just going to have to stay nimble on both fronts.
On the pitching coach front, are you looking for a traditional pitching coach? Or speaking of being open-minded, I mean, it seems like that position is evolving the last couple of years.
It really is, Doogie. I think that we are open-minded there. We've thought a lot about what structures work. When you look at baseball, one of the things that I always think about my creative time, is you look at other sports. You try and identify what are they doing in the NFL around coaching and development. While it's certainly a different sport, no question, and so is the NBA or the NHL or others, I think we can learn from one another in how we coach professional athletes. So I've looked at different types of structures around our staff, which responsibilities exist in different places, and we now use our bullpens differently. So how do we use the staff that's out there in the pen? Nothing is off the table for us right now. So we've talked to some different people with different backgrounds who have to be more of a scouting influence or potentially more of a player development influence that might impact us here at the major league level. So I would anticipate us being pretty open-minded and creative with our group.
Derek, how do you guys feel about the opener strategy that was used by the team this year? We saw Tampa Bay sort of utilize that approach, and what's your sort of takeaway on how that was used over the course of the season?
When you look at Tampa, you just referenced them, and I think they were the team to really pioneer it and did it so effectively. I think when they made some of the decisions they had to make around some of their trades earlier this year, there was a belief, at least publicly, I'm sure internally not so much for them, but that they had certainly downgraded their overall staff, but they found a way to put guys into positions to be really, really successful and effective. And I think ultimately, when I think about pitching and defense, I just think about run prevention. How do we prevent runs? That's the goal, because then if we score more than they do, this can be a simple game sometimes. So I think that what they did and how they deployed it worked effectively. Now, what I would say is not every staff is set up perfectly for it. I think that not every pitcher is a perfect candidate to have that conversation. For us in September, we used it with a couple of young guys just to see how it worked and certainly to adapt some ideas. And for us, when you look at the stats in those games, they were certainly effective. I don't think it'll be something that will go away in the short term. I think it's something more teams will explore. And the way I look at it, and someone said this to me a long time ago, there was a belief at one point that a guy pitching one inning at the end of a game was a rarity and something new, and that became the closer and something we all know. So I think if the game evolves, we all evolve with it and adapt, and I would anticipate there will be continued evolution in this game.
It's 4:11 here on 1500 ESPN, talking with Twins Chief Baseball Officer Derek Falvey. Derek, are you operating as if Joe Mauer will not be on your roster next year?
Yeah, well, certainly we've had conversations with Joe just around his thoughts and future and otherwise, and he continues to have conversations internally with his family. So we've prepared, just rationally, and the way we approach that is both ways, to keep that in mind as we have those conversations. But I do anticipate, we'll certainly get to resolution here in the near term, and Joe will certainly be at a place, soon where I'm sure he feels good about which direction he wants to head in 2019 and beyond.
Is November 20th the deadline to add guys to the 40-man roster?
Yeah, it's just about that date. I don't have it right on my calendar in front of me, but that's about the time when you have to make those final decisions to protect for Rule 5. So we're getting pretty close to making those final decisions on our roster.
All right, so how many tough decisions are there? I mean, heck, there's some easy ones. I mean, I guess Nick Gordon would be an easy one, although maybe not. But how many tough decisions in general are there?
Sure, it's a great question. Every year, I want to say that in every room, it feels like there are more tough ones than you imagine going in. It's just because you love your players. You love making sure that you see young guys through to the big leagues. There's certainly a few that we might feel are kind of close to no-brainers for us that we're just going to go ahead and move forward with. But every year I feel like the reliever group's always the toughest one. You got a few guys that might be on the cusp of being a major league guy, and you feel like in the Rule 5 draft a reliever could get selected and maybe stick on a roster for a year. So I would say that that's going to be the toughest group of players for us is the last couple of pitchers that we add to the roster going into next year.
Derek, do you view that next year can be closer to 2 years ago than this previous year, that presumably the Indians are not going to retain all their free agents? Who knows? Maybe they end up losing all these guys, Cody Allen, Andrew Miller, Brantley, Josh Donaldson, but that there's a window there that maybe the White Sox aren't quite ready to make a jump next year, the Royals, the Tigers, that you guys can be closer to the team that won 85 2 years ago as opposed to what we saw this past year?
Sure, I think that's fair. When you look at our club, certainly winning 85 last year was a great step for our group. Now this year, winning 78, when you say that out loud at the end of the year and you look up at our roster and the injuries we dealt with and some of the underperformance in different spots, it doesn't feel like it was that far off of that team. And I think that certainly we feel like with continued health and performance and a jumping back from our young core to being what we believe they can be, we do believe we can approximate that. When you look at certainly we've mentioned at length some of the injuries and some of the guys that have struggled this year, but we shouldn't expect that level of underperformance going into next year. So we would expect each of those guys to jump back to where they should be, and the trajectory of our team we still feel is bright. We have a young core of players who we think are going to impact us here, and we need to find ways to add around it, to supplement. But we also need to be open-minded if we feel like there are ways to improve our club, moving forward, including that group. So we'll stay open-minded, but we feel like this is a good roster.
I mean, presumably you need to jump up from 85, right? I mean, talk all you want about 78, but 85 2 years ago, I mean, that's a rarity, right? I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay Rays this past year, Derek, right? 90 wins, and they missed the playoffs by a handful of games, right? That 85 was so rare to make the playoffs. Absolutely. You really need to target 90 at least, right?
Absolutely. That has to be our goal. I mean, I think, we never really think of it as an exact win number, but I think you're right, dude. The sentiment's there. We have to get into the playoffs most years, you got to be in those 90s, and certainly to win divisions do. So it's a rarity to have that 85-win season. That was a unique year. I think we were the last remaining team in the American League above 500 at that point. So that got us into the playoffs, which we were fortunate about. But we do need to continue to improve and grow and develop beyond where we were. We know we aren't where we need to be today. So we need to find ways to enhance the group that we have internally and continue to grow for the future.
I'll let you go after two more quickies. On Rocco Baldelli, your new manager. Anything you now know about Rocco that maybe you didn't know even just a couple weeks ago?
Well, I can tell you this. His passion for every aspect of our organization is probably what I have learned. I mean, he is dug in deep. He's back home and he's learning as much as he can about our young players, about our scouting group, trying to run through the call list of so many people in our organization. So trying to introduce himself, at least personally, to so many staff members and players. So he's all in. There's no question. He loves everything they're trying to do and build here, and I think he's a great partner for us moving forward.
Then on the health front, whether it's, Alberto Mejia, Michael Pineda, Jason Castro, Byron Buxton, I'm probably top of my head leaving out a name or two, but how are some guys doing on the health front?
Yeah, it's, as we just referenced, tough year on a lot of fronts with a number of guys losing early. Jason Castro really continues to get himself in a good place in the off season. We feel he's going to have a normal off season and should be good to go come spring training. Miguel Sanó has fully recovered and is working out at our facility down in the Dominican. While he's back home, he continues to show real improvement. Guys like Eddie Rosario, who after dealing with his strain at the end of the year is in a much better place. We expect a normal off season from him. Certainly Byron, somebody who dealt with a lot of challenges this year, up and down, mostly around health, and for him to really get that time now to get himself where he needs to be going into next spring, he's also in a good place. So we feel like from a position player group, that they're all in a great place. Adalberto Mejia, who you referenced, is getting stronger with where he needs to be with his arm. And we fully anticipate our plan was around Thanksgiving to really test out in full his throwing. And if everything should go well there, we expect a continued normal off season. And same to be said about Michael Pineda, somebody who we are going to count on next year as a big part of our pitching rotation. And his knee is fully recovered in a place where he should be good to go come spring. So far. No baseball games being played. I don't think we're going to have any injuries in the short term here. So hopefully we keep everyone on the right track going into Fort Myers.
Isn't the Arizona Fall League still going? You got some prospects down there, don't you?
That's true. I guess. So
be careful.
There's some of our young players still have a chance to potentially experience some injuries. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Do you have a bunch of guys playing winter ball like in the Dominican or somewhere else?
We have some along the way. Certainly some of our younger players like to get those additional at-bats. What we're focused on for most of our major league guys and certainly near-term Twins and 40-man guys to really get them to put their, as you just mentioned, the injuries and otherwise get guys healthy. So in the short term here, our expectation is to have a lot of work being done at Fort Myers, at camps, some of it down in Dominican as well, and less of a focus on winter ball. But certainly we'll get some innings and at-bats throughout the winter.
Derek, always appreciate the time. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks so much. You guys too.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. TCL launched a new lineup of award-winning 4K Roku TVs to deliver the best sports, movies, TV shows, and thousands of streaming channels. TCL's personalized home screen makes it easy to customize your TCL to fit the way you watch. Binge watch what you want, when you want. TCL delivers excellent picture quality, sleek design, and stunning resolution at an affordable price. TCL, America's fastest-growing TV brand, is available at major retailers everywhere. Learn more at tclusa.com.
9 deaths and thousands of homes. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. Fire officials still battling flames in Butte County in Northern California say 9 victims have been found dead after yesterday's devastating wildfire in the town of Paradise. As for the number of people now homeless,
our current residential structures destroyed are 6,453. 6453.
Dozens of homes in Southern California as well have been lost to wildfires. President Trump is blasting critics who are criticizing his selection of Matthew Whitaker to head the Justice Department since Whitaker has spoken out against the Russia investigation. The president and first lady are in France tonight for a commemoration of World War I. Actor Michael Keaton, wearing a Pittsburgh Pirates ball cap, led a prayer vigil in Pittsburgh for the synagogue shooting victims. I'm Jackie Quinn.